What's going on, everyone? Guess what? We got Matthew Trautwein in the house with us. Oh my God, this man plays so many instruments. Oh my gosh. Multi-Instrumentalist from the Lost Boys. What's up, man?
Howdy, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us, what influenced you to become a musician?
Well, both my parents are classical musicians, along with my uncle, who's they're all very steeped in that whole world, and you just sort of grew up around it. And have to say that I didn't really show a whole lot of, I don't want to say interest, but I didn't take it all that seriously until I was about 13. Mm-hmm. And when I was a little kid, I had piano lessons, I had violin lessons, and none of it really stuck. It was just something that was fun to do, but I didn't really take it all that seriously. But I started playing the guitar when I was 13, and from that moment on, it was just sort of, okay, here's the thing. This is what I'm going to do. And, having played those other instruments and having sung pretty much my whole life kind of set me up to do a bunch of different things. And, doing lots of different things means that you progress a little bit slower on all of them, as opposed to if you just do one thing and that's all you do, you're going to get a lot better a lot sooner than a slowpoke like me. So I'm very much a late bloomer when it comes to being really proficient at things, but I practice all the time, and I still take guitar lessons and violin lessons and voice lessons to this day. Wow. I'm always working, and even though I've been doing this a while yet, I think I'm still getting better. So, that's how I started pretty much. Is that I got the bug when I was 13, and then that was all I ever did after that.
I hear you, man. That's cool. Yeah.
Was there any artists or bands that really inspired you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could talk all day about that. I've got hundreds of people that have been a huge influence on me. When I was little, it was the Beatles. My parents are classical musicians, but my mom had like 5 rock and roll records, and they were all Beatles. And of course, we have all this classical music going on. What do I want to listen to? Abbey Road. So, that was sort of my inspiration as a little kid. My mom had a bunch of singles. She was a real, I don't want to say child of the 60s, but as a classical musician, that was the only time that she really had any interest in pop music. So she had a bunch of those things. But ironically enough, the band that really said, oh my gosh, this is what I really want to do, was Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, there you go. Good one. Yeah, good one.
To this day, their guitar player, Buck Dharma, is my main guy. He may not be the best guitar player in the world, but he is the coolest.
Oh, he's cool. Yeah, he's cool.
He is cool.
His playing and the whole intrigue that surrounds their whole catalog, man, just really captivated my imagination. And from there, it was a lot of folks that were kind of popular at the time. I'm a huge Rush fan. That was probably the second group that I was just like, let's get into this. Oh yeah. And man, those first 8 or 9 Rush albums are a textbook. If you want to learn how to play rock guitar, start on the first cut of Rush's first album, go all the way through Moving Pictures. You'll know what you're doing by the end.
I hear you.
Yeah, so I was big into Heart and the Cars and that kind of stuff. When I first was like starting to write songs and really get into that, I had a lot of cool friends that introduced me to a lot of things. I was very much into sort of hard rock, leaning towards metal, and I went to high school at the North Carolina School of the Arts, which really opened my eyes to a lot of different possibilities. For some reason, I became friends with drummers, and it always seems to be, when I play in bands, that's the guy I get closest to somehow. Most of the time, it's always a drummer that I end up hanging out with.
Cool.
And those guys at art school, man, they were into a lot of things like, well, the first band that we were really into was the Police. And I didn't really like the Police when I first heard them. They were all blonde and good looking, and all the girls at school liked them, and I was just like, teeny bopper stuff. But then I really started to listen to it. And each one of those guys, man, revolutionized the world in terms of their instrument. Guitar, bass, drums, and vocals, and the songwriting. As far as like career guys, Sting is one of my absolute dudes. And, you know, I liked him better when he was doing rock and roll. You know, the stuff he's been doing since, you know, maybe the mid-90s is a little bit laid back for me.
Right, right.
But, man, the Police were razor sharp. And his first few solo albums also just A-list stuff, man.
Cool.
But I went through listening to a lot of folks like Peter Gabriel is another big guy for me. Thomas
like him.
was huge for a lot of things. And believe it or not, I'm one of those few people that think Robert Plant actually got more interesting after he left Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
You know, in terms of Sting, Peter Gabriel, and Robert Plant solo, those three guys are probably the ones that I would emulate the most in terms of what I'm doing now. Now, of course, huge Zeppelin fan.
I got you.
One of my absolute favorite players. You know, I've got a lot of love for Queen and all those harmonies. Probably hear a lot of that in the Lost Boys for sure.
Cool.
You know, but as you go through, there's always terrific people. You know, through the 90s, I was big into like Tori Amos was large in my world for a while. Later on, it was like the White Stripes. More recently, I love Muse. And my current favorite, like current band, is a British band called Foals. And I don't know if you've ever heard of those guys, but dude, check them out. They're a big throwback to a lot of the kind of stuff that was happening in the early 80s. You know, I have a large interest in prog rock from the 70s. A specific favorite of mine was early 80s King Crimson.
Okay.
And guys in Foals, their guitar parts remind me a lot of that. And they've got their main dude is this Greek guy, Yannis Papalakis, if I can say it right. Anyway, they are the coolest band ever, and I've fallen in love with their whole catalog. So that's kind of it. You know, getting more like I was big into Yes and Kansas and groups like that for a long time. Certainly, I had to figure out how to use a violin in the course of rock and roll. I mean, Kansas is really the beginning and the end of that. I mean, not that other people didn't use it, but
Right.
you know, you want to figure out how to work a violin into a rock band. First 5 Kansas albums are just dynamite. So,
Dude, you just said Kansas, man. Like, I literally was about to ask you if you like Kansas.
well, instrumentally, especially those first 5 records are, you know, it's just so well crafted. They just figured out what everything is supposed to do. And I felt like the singing from both their guys, Steve Walsh and Robbie Steinhardt, they figured out how to sing with each other. That was just so good. You just don't find two-part singing like that very often that works that well. And in his prime, Steve Walsh had the ultimate voice. And man, on Left Overture and Point of No Return, it just doesn't get a whole lot better than that. That dude could do anything. And you know, and great keyboard player too. And I thought the combination of all the different sounds in that band, it was like, it's his prime time, man. Those guys really knew what they were doing.
Oh, absolutely, man. They were truly, honest to God, as you know, they were way ahead of their time, man. You know.
Yeah, well, they just seemed to they were able to put a real American slant on the whole British prog rock thing. And you know, some of their stuff sounds like Leonard Skinner almost. But you know, the violin was like the flute equivalent Jethro Tull kind of thing. Throw out the flute, put the violin there, and all of a sudden you've got this new thing. And it really, you know, as much as you can say they got this from ELP and they got this from whoever, it sounds American. In the same way that like Styx couldn't have come from anywhere else but the United States, even though all their influences are British. Those are American sounding bands. And you know, Styx in their more proggy area, also a big influence. Things like Pieces of Eight, Grand Illusion, that's about my time. Those records are amazing. And they were able to make the whole prog rock thing more concise and more direct. Pieces of Eight is one of my all-time favorite records. And the singing, playing, and arranging on that album, fantastic. Dennis, you know, I'm not a big fan of a lot of his love songs, but as a keyboard player, his right hand is good as anybody out there. And
Right.
in that period, they were as good as anybody. I love that stuff.
Man, you talking about Styx, man. My favorite riff of theirs, straight up, is Miss America.
Oh, yeah.
Dun, 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 digga, dun, dun, dun. Yep.
Tough as nails. Yeah, that's one of the best riffs ever.
Oh, yeah. I love that one. Yeah.
Sure is, yeah.
Heck yeah. Sweet, man. Well, dude, what's your favorite foods, man?
My favorite food.
We talk about all kinds of stuff here.
That's it.
Golly, spaghetti. Spaghetti with meat sauce, man. That's the stuff.
Dude, I could eat spaghetti every day.
Never gets old.
Nope.
Have it every day too.
So, dude, we talked to David, man, of course, of your band, you know, and yeah, he was real quick with that one, pancakes.
Pancakes.
Oh yeah, he was very. As a matter of fact, it's pancakes.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Yep.
Yeah, pancakes, spaghetti. I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
David on here, what do you have to say?
Ooh, I don't know. Should we tell him?
About the episode. See if he can tell any of our deepest secrets.
That's it, brother. He's a good man, man. Yeah, he's a good man.
We enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to have his video out along with yours. We're just thinking about having a Lost Boys weekend.
Bam. So fantastic.
Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and Mary's going to let all the fans know.
Hey, terrific. Yeah, give us a heads up on that. We'll post it on all our stuff too.
Oh, very
brother.
cool. Very cool.
Cool. I mean, dude, you guys. That's the thing. Your fans are dedicated, brother. They're you got. Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there for sure.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Love
That's
them all.
really cool. Heck yeah, man.
All right, so you know there might be some people out here that may not know the Lost Boys. What can you tell us about the Lost Boys to
Yeah.
those people?
Right.
Lost Boys were born in, golly, going back to '99 was the original lineup got together. We were all working at the Georgia Renaissance Festival doing different things. And we were kind of reaching the end of the road of all that, but we had what we considered at the time our main band, Carmelingo, which oddly enough was modeled on the combination of the first Kansas lineup on one hand and the first Heart lineup on the other. Both 6-piece groups, and that's what we had. And, you know, like any local band, particularly doing original music, you're always trying to find an audience, figuring out who's going to dig you and where to go to play and all that stuff. And we're sitting there at the Ren Fair, and, you know, on a good day, there's 10,000 people out there every day. And we're just like, dude, we got to figure out something that we can stay in front of this many people. And we initially thought, well, we'll just do it as a calling card for the main band. But we kind of hit on something, and it wasn't like we were that revolutionary. A lot of things that were happening kind of all over the country as far as Ren Fairs go. Up until that time, late '90s, it was all very much traditional music, and you really had to stay within certain parameters there just to do what you can to be historically accurate as much as possible. I mean, the truth of the matter is so little music has actually, especially folk music, has survived from the Renaissance that once you get out of the world of like recorder music or lute songs or something like that, madrigals, it's hard to say what anybody in the basic pub was playing. So a lot of things that were written way later sound right at Ren Fairs, you know, sea shanties and a lot of the sort of folk music, if it's British or Celtic in any way, that stuff mostly wasn't even really around until the late 1800s, even the 1900s. But it sounds ancient enough that it'll fly down there. Anyway, we were looking around at all that thinking, man, wouldn't it be cool if we would be allowed to play something that would capitalize on all of the crowd participation that's out there. I mean, you watch the big stage act, jugglers, what have you, comedy groups. They've all got the audience clapping along, singing and stomping, even if there isn't really a whole lot of music there. And we were just like, dude, this is arena rock. You know, this is Def Leppard 1984. Let's see if we can do this. So I had a long talk with the person who was the artistic director at the Georgia Festival at that time, and I said, I got this idea. It's going to push some boundaries here. It's going to break a lot of rules. What do you think? And she said, well, put something together. I'll have you do a set at the end of this season, and we'll just sort of see. And I have to say, we stacked the deck a little bit. We invited all our friends, let them know what was going on. So we came up with, 9 or 10 songs of either stuff that was kind of around folk-wise that we just totally rocked out on, and we got a couple of song parodies in there. I'm not sure if I had anything written at the time, but we put together a set. And they just stuck us on this little platform, they had like a gypsy caravan thing that they had at one side of the path, main thing going down towards the joust. And it wasn't even really a stage, not like a big thing at all. And when we started, we had about maybe a dozen people there. By the end of the set, there was about 200 people there. It was blocking the lane. And, the artistic director is back there leaning against a tree looking at it like this. I'm up there going, huh? And so we had a meeting after that, and she was like, okay, obviously this is something that's got a lot of potential, but I'm going to keep it on a very short leash. It can't be too rock and roll, or it'll be too far. He was like, fine, you just let us know. But it was kind of off the chain at that point. Once the beast was let loose, there was no getting it back. And a couple of things happened then. One, every season that we did past then, it just started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we had no idea that it was going to become such a thing. And that artistic director left, and they got a new woman in, and by that time we were kind of established. So the genie's out of the bottle. There's no way that she can kind of rein us in then, because the fans had already said, oh. And it really, really exploded on us the first road trip that we did. Fall of 2003, I guess. We got invited to go to the Charlotte Renaissance Festival, and they wanted us for 2 weekends, one early in their season and one at the end. And we went up and we did the first one, and it was all right. No problem. And then we went back a month later, and it was pandemonium. It was like the Beatles at Shea Stadium. I couldn't. We were all looking at each other going, what the heck is going on? And the audience had figured it out. We are a joke rock and roll band. And everything that would be corny and kind of cheesy in real life works great for us because we're just having a laugh. And, we had many mottos at the time. No idea is too stupid. We never let the music get in the way of our stage act, all that kind of stuff. The audience figured it out. They can act like absolute berserker crazy people. They can scream just like all the girls back in the 60s and have a huge time. And once that whole thing fell into place, forget about it. It was, we had done Dragon Con that year, and it was the same kind of thing. It was so huge and so successful that they had to call the fire marshal. We had filled the lobby with so many people, and we're just like, what is going on here? So it was really, really astounding, and we had a very, very good run. We made a serious attempt at trying to break national, and we traveled all over the place trying to get ourselves established different places, and we went as far north as Boston and as far west as Colorado.
Cool.
And Arizona, one full season there. It's tough.
Yeah.
Work. Right. And even, our first big lineup change happened in 2004, and it just became a revolving door at that point because trying to stay out there cost a lot of money. We weren't making an awful lot. Everything that we were making, and then some, was going right back into what it was taking to stay out and afloat. And, you know, when you hear these stories about, you know, big league bands that get hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and that's no joke. No joke. And me being the one constant guy who's trying to keep it rolling, at the end of the day, I'm the guy they hand the bill to. You know, I had dozens of other people come and go, and I'm watching the debt pile up going, uh-oh. You know, in the end, we had to slow it down because it was too expensive. And, you know, there were a couple of things that we really were hoping were going to happen that didn't happen. There were a couple of things that totally unexpected kind of pulled the rug out from underneath us. And, you know, so we took some knocks, but, you know, we arrived at a really good place. You know, I dug myself out of the financial hole. That took a while. But the lineup that we have now is really strong, really solid musically. Everybody gets along real well, which is great. And, you know, we're not quite as aggressively ambitious as we used to be, but we're still writing new music. We're still making records and doing new songs and stuff. And the fans are still there.
Sweet.
We don't play as many places as we used to, but every time we come out, the diehards are with us. Every time. And the thing that is probably most satisfying to me is that every time we do get a chance to go someplace new, where there's an established audience already, they don't know anything about us. We walk up there, we do our show. It lands every single time. I've never seen it not work. You know, the only reason why we don't do well sometimes is if the sound is bad, which does happen, and if there just aren't enough people there. Trying to do the Lost Boys show to 6 people is very hard.
Right.
So if you put us in front of 60 people, I guarantee you we'll have the place going by the end. It never fails, and it's amazing. And, you know, we have to thank everybody that's ever been in the group for that. Everybody that's been along. We've had 27 Lost Boys over the years, and every single one of them has brought something really special and unique to the table, and that makes it all that much harder to replace them when they've got to move on.
Right.
You know, they leave, a lot of times they'll leave great ideas with us that we continue to use forward, going forward. So yeah, I'm really happy with the band. I think we've had a terrific thing, and we're not done yet. It still rolls on. So
Sweet.
Yeah, very, very pleased with the whole thing. Very proud of the work we've done.
Man, dude, tell us, you mentioned Dragon Con. That's cool as crap.
Well, you know, Dragon Con is very elusive. It's hard to get in there. You really got to know somebody, and that was the case with us. We had a guy who was a major fan who was on their board of directors at the time, and we got in there. I think we've done it 3, maybe 4 times over the years, and the first couple were really sensational. Again, the first one was kind of a break-in. You know, and that was like maybe 2002, but the following year, forget about it. It was so good. And, you know, after that, I think that guy stopped being on their board. I never heard the story really of what that was about. But once he was gone, we didn't really have anybody rooting for us. And we managed to put in a couple of more appearances sort of through the back door. But, you know, you gotta kind of know somebody to get you. Right. And so we're sort of waiting for that next key person to show up to help us get back in. But love Dragon Con. It's always a huge fun, and we've done very well there. It's our kind of craft for sure.
Man, I love hearing that. I mean, that's so cool, man. Just playing there, you know, that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, now, if the Georgia Renaissance Fair opens this year, is there any chance you guys will ever come back to the Georgia one?
Well, hard to say. That's another one of those situations that's kind of a mystery to us. We were a mainstay there for 8 years, and starting with '99 through the '07 season, and I worked there as musical director all that time too. And I have to say, we had built a really cool sort of musical program, for want of a better word there. And I heard it from other people that would travel to Georgia from around the country that, I mean, our front gate ensemble, it was like an orchestra. We rehearsed really carefully, everybody knew the tunes, and a lot of times when people play together at Ren Fairs, it's just kind of a loose thing, you know. I kind of know this song, you kind of know that song. Well, play a little bit of it and I'll try to jump in. We rehearsed. We mapped it all out, man, so that when we came out there, it was this solid sound, a really tight ensemble. And I had people tell me that this is unique. Nobody has this around the country. So I thought we were really going good. And we were gearing up for 2008, and I got the call that said, I don't think we're going to need you this year. What?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That was a big shock, you know, and that we were told at the time that it was a budgetary thing. They really wanted to get this Lipizzaner Stallion horse act in, which, you know, ended up not being particularly successful, as I heard. But apparently that was so expensive that they had to cut somebody, and for whatever reason, they decided to cut us. And we've done 2 appearances since then in a very limited fashion. And I have to say, I don't get it. The fans love us. They always come out. We always do well, you know, and we've made, you know, they always used to put us on the least usable stage they had. Nobody else wants this stage. We'll put the Lost Boys there. And we always made it work. And we never complained about it. Put us wherever you need, man, because we know our audience. They'll go wherever we are. It's no problem. So yeah, we'll take the stage nobody else wants. We'll make it our own. People know where to find us. Right, so, you know, we always were successful. And why they've allowed us to slip through the cracks is a big, big question mark. And we've talked to everybody that we know that works down there, and nobody seems to know. You know, we've re-auditioned at least once and, you know, nailed it. Everybody's like, man, great. And come contract time, so your answer is good as mine about that. I mean, we'd love to go back. Right. But for whatever reason, that door is closed to us right now. And we're hanging out, waiting for that to change.
Right. I mean, I love the Renaissance Festival. Yeah, that's cool.
It's awesome. And our act is designed for that. I mean, we can play anywhere, but the place where we function the best.
Right. Yeah, exactly, brother. Well, dude, like, I remember when with the Renaissance, man, you know, I was talking with David, you know, when we had him on, and have you heard of Blackmore's Night?
Oh, yeah. In fact, they came to Georgia once. Candace and Richie Blackmore were walking around the fair. And
what?
They were at the Georgia Renaissance Festival. This would have been like 05 or 06. And, you know, we saw him, and it was just like, oh. And Blackmore even had his bouzouki on his back. He was ready to play. And wow. I was just like, oh, dude, we got to get them up there to pub sing. But we approached them, and they really they didn't feel like doing it. So, but, man, that would have been something.
Wow.
To get them up there and to maybe if they would let us jam with them, that would have been cool. But they were there. Wow.
Wow.
I think they were just on tour. I think they had an Atlanta date, you know, like that Friday or something, and they just decided, hey, let's check it out. So it was kind of neat. So we've had some royalty walking around the floor that way.
Oh, I love Blackmore's Night, man. I love that band. Yeah.
Well,
heck yeah.
I'm a big Rainbow fan from back.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
that's a good band. Yeah.
Great.
Sweet. Now, so if you had to choose of Richie Blackmore, would you choose Deep Purple, Rainbow, or Blackmore's Night?
Well, there's no denying, you know, how revolutionary Deep Purple was. I became aware of Richie Blackmore during the Rainbow years, so that's probably what's closest to my heart. You know, the Straight Through the Eyes record was the one that was current when I first heard of them. I've kind of gone backwards and forwards there. You know, I like Joe Lynn Turner as a singer a lot because he's sort of on the clean end of things, but you know, Rainbow is when Dio got his start, you know, and I'm a huge Dio fan. So a lot of that stuff, Long Live Rock and Roll and, you know, Man on the Silver Mountain and all those songs, you know, No getting around that. So I think if I had to choose between the three, I'd have to go with Rainbow just because that's what I know the best, you know. And that was the, you know, that came along during my formative years, I guess you'd say. And I guess we always are more attached to the things that we got into when we were in our, you know, high school years or whatever. So
Absolutely, man. Yeah. You mentioned, Man on Silver Mountain. I love that. Yeah, that's good stuff.
yeah, it was the best.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I actually liked him better when he got with Black Sabbath. The first two Sabbath albums that he did, oh my gosh. That is absolutely virtuoso rock singing right there, especially on the heavy end of things. And his ability to go from just the cleanest, sweetest sound to the big, heavy, growly thing. I mean, listen to the intro of Children of the Sea. Nobody can sing like that. That's Dio 100%. I've never heard anybody do that transition as smoothly as he does. Masterful stuff. Fantastic.
Yep. Sweet, man. Well, dude, like, okay, we're metalheads. If you had to choose a metal band, if you had to now, what would you choose? What is your favorite metal band?
Well, you kind of got to define your terms.
That is very true. That's very true.
You know, there are some people that say Blue Oyster Cult is a heavy metal group. And if that's heavy metal, then, you know, how does that compare to, say, Metallica or whatever? I like a lot of the heavy stuff from, I guess, a lot of what I like about heavy metal has to do with the hugeness of it. It's epic music, you know. It's symphonic. It's like, you know, somebody was saying once that apparently, not that they're a metal band, but like for Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson was a huge Beethoven fan. And if you listen to bum 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 bum, how different really is that from da 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 da? So you know, there's a huge connection there between really heavy guitar rock and orchestral music, and so hard for me to pick one. You know, I love Black Sabbath. I think Tony Iommi is one of my favorite records. Oddly enough, I like those two Dio albums better than anything else in the Sabbath catalog. Now, everyone's like, "Oh, wait, what about Ozzy?" You know, well, the first, say, 4 Sabbath records, love them, but they got someplace else with Dio on those 2 records anyway. That is a lot closer to where I sort of live. Ironically enough, I think Ozzy, his first 2 solo records, which came out right around the same time, are equally as revolutionary. Diary of a Madman, Get Out of Town, great album. Huge Randy Rhoads fan, and there's that, you know, there's that heavy metal classical music association that, you know, Randy probably was closer than anybody, especially at the time, in terms of doing that sort of thing. So I'm a big fan of that. You know, later on, a group like Queensryche, like Operation Mindcrime, boy,
they were very good.
Scary. That's, you know, as of that time, that's one of the best metal records ever. The production on that, unbelievable. That was, golly, what's the guy's name? He worked with Rush too around that time. Peter Collins, yeah. His production on that record, fantastic. So, you know, that record for Queensryche, I mean, I'm not such a big fan of everything else they've done, but I like that album a whole lot. And, you know, Jeff Tate, another one of those dudes that took the sort of Bruce Dickinson Iron Maiden thing to a whole new level. But I love Iron Maiden. That hit the first 3 records that Bruce did with them, unbelievably good. You know, I like Metallica. You know, they had to grow on me a little bit just because so much of what I like, you know, I love the guitar playing, and in terms of metal in particular, the instrumentation and the high level of musicianship, all that's great. But I'm a singer at heart. If I had to pick one thing that I could do, if I wasn't allowed to do anything else, I would want to sing. And once, you know, Hetfield is sort of the last of the metal singers, if you think about it that way, that I can kind of get behind. And it really wasn't until the Black Album, not everybody's favorite, I know, but his singing on that album entered a whole new league for him. not to say that Master of Puppets and that kind of stuff isn't great, but the kind of nuance and depth that his singing got to on the Black Album. And if you ever get a chance, you probably know this, but the like a year and a half in the life of Metallica. If you've ever seen that documentary on Metallica,
Yep.
it's really insightful. Not only for how they made the Black Album, but their whole tour after that, the whole thing with Guns N' Roses, all that. Totally documented. There's even when they did the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, and there's this hilarious thing backstage with Spinal Tap, which is right there. Check it out. It's hysterical, where they're just like, so, you lads in Metallica, we just have one question to ask you. Black Album? Hello? It's really funny. So, once we started getting the more guttural, really growly kind of sort of singing, metal starts to lose me a little bit there, just because I get connect with it vocally. My sound is really clean.
Right.
Part of the reason why I like Ozzy a lot is because he's relatively clean for singers. And Dio definitely had his more growly sound, but the fact that he could do that really, really pure, quiet thing also was just like, oh, this is a guy I need to check out. Early Bruce Dickinson, definitely, because again, he can do the screams, he can do all that stuff, but also it's a very clean tone a lot of times. That's the kind of metal singing that I can relate to. And because I tend to listen to things top down, I always listen to the singer first. That's just
Right.
that. Once it becomes less of a vocal thing, then it loses me a little bit. And I also have to say that, a lot of shred guitar stuff, my hands just don't go that fast, man. I tried. But, the guitar playing that's a little bit more my speed is sort of more... Rush, certainly, but even that is like guitar solos go. Angus Young is a bit more my speed than Yngwie,
Right.
Now, I appreciate Yngwie Malmsteen and a lot of those shred guys. I mean, Steve Vai, get out of town. Great, amazing. I mean, that guy's so good, I don't even understand what he's doing most of the time. And, I'm a big Van Halen fan, but a lot of that stuff was, it's song-based. Van Halen, when he's paired with either Roth or Sammy, he's dealing with guys that really understand songs, singing, phrasing, all that kind of stuff. And, the combination of Edward's virtuosity, and the kind of hooks that he would come up with. And, most people go on and on about Edward as a soloist, but his rhythm playing, he's one of the best rhythm guitar players ever to walk the planet. Hendrix was like that too. Yeah, these guys could play amazing guitar solos, but the feel that they had, there's such a sense of swing to Van Halen that a lot of guys that were imitating him just sound stiff. It's like it's a difference between a march and something that's got more of a
Groove.
Almost like a waltz thing. It's like this sort of swing is the best word for it. Van Halen swings in a way that a lot of other bands from the mid to late 80s just don't. They sound really square to me. And but it comes down to, Van Halen always had a great singer. And that marriage of a great singer with that incredible guitar playing, that for me is what the magic for Van Halen always was. And not that you can take anything away from Edward, but he always has needed a strong foil vocally to really make it happen. I think the Van Halen 3 album is really fascinating because that was the only record in their whole catalog where he was dealing with, a younger singer. Somebody who, Gary Cherone, excellent when he's among his buds. Great band. So why is it that a singer who's great in Extreme wouldn't be great with Van Halen when you'd think, gosh, these guys are, the originators of this kind of playing and they've been at it for so long, they're so good. Why wouldn't a guy like that be able to just step in and rule the planet? And it's just chemistry, and the fact that I think you have to be a really, really strong personality to work with somebody like Edward Van Halen, you know? I mean, Jimmy Page has the same problem. He's never been able to find a singer since Zeppelin folded. And, you know, Paul Rodgers, amazing. But you think that the Firm would have been incredible. But it's just a matter of chemistry. Now, I like the Firm. I do. I don't think they were successful as they could have been, and I always think that, man, if they'd only done a couple more records, they might have really landed. But by that time, you know, you get to a certain point in your career, I guess, that if it doesn't hit instantly, it's just like, got to get on to something else. I thought the album Jimmy Page did with David Coverdale, best record he's made since Physical Graffiti. Oh my gosh, the guitar on that is just nuclear. I love that album. And everybody doesn't like it. Oh, because it's not Robert Plant. Well, Robert Plant had moved on by that time. And I actually think that that album is way better than Walking into Clarksdale. After when they did their unleaded reunion, the video was cool. I love the tour. That's one of my top 5 concerts of all time. But Robert Plant was in a very different place then. And he was not the singer that Jimmy Page needed at that time, and vice versa. And as much as I love Led Zeppelin, and as much as I, you know, absolutely bow at the feet of those guys, Jimmy Page needed David Coverdale. And you listen to that album, and then listen to Walking to Clarksdale, it's no contest. That Coverdale record is just unbelievable, because Coverdale understands what Jimmy Page means to the world. And he's just like, Jimmy, do your thing, man. You know, I'll get out of the way. I'll step in when you need me, but, you know, do your thing. And I think, you know, Robert Plant, he's got his own thing now. And it's just not about big guitar rock.
Right.
And it hasn't been for 30 years, you know.
Right.
So.
I mean, you mentioned Coverdale. I do love Whitesnake.
Yeah. I have to say I'm not as into them, or not. Ultimately, I'd say I'm not as familiar. You know, there's only so much time in the day to listen to everything.
Right.
But I loved their late '80s hits. You know, Still the Night, that whole period.
Yep.
You know, again, sound-wise, they just landed on something. You know, is it John Sykes? Was that the guitar player who recorded that record? I know he got Vivian Campbell and Adrian Vandenberg in later. But the production on that record, like the guitar sound that's on the what's the ballad? Is This Love? Amazing. Oh my God, that is just gorgeous guitar playing. So, yeah, I got a place for Whitesnake. You know, they're not one of my main bands, but you know, and you got to respect somebody like that who's been able to, you know. Coverdale's another one of those dudes. Like a big league version of me that is, you know, just seen a lot of people come and go, and he just keeps going, you know? And as I say, he's a very strong personality, exactly the kind of person that a Jimmy Page needs to bounce against, you know? A kid that nobody's heard of before, of course that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work.
Right.
You know? You really, you know, a player like that needs a foil, somebody who can really bring something to the table. And, you know, when they did the big Zeppelin reunion in '06, you know, Jason Bonham and John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page, they were all ready to keep going. And Robert Plant was like, nah, I'm done. So they tried. They tried to find somebody. Everybody from, Miles Kennedy to, I think Steven Tyler even was over there for a while trying to work that out. And I think it just came down to chemistry. I mean, Steven Tyler would have been amazing, but, you know, Steven Tyler is a collaborator with, like, you know, Hollywood songwriters. That's the Aerosmith on the big comeback. That was what that was built on. And you're just not gonna hook Holly Knight up with Jimmy Page. That's just not going to happen. Page is his own entity, thank you very much, and he doesn't need any song doctors to work on his music.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
And with Miles Kennedy, you know, I have to say that he, as fine a singer as he is, probably not powerful enough as a creative voice to just knock heads with Jimmy Page. I mean, you're talking one of the titans of music here. Not everybody can work with that guy.
Right.
And, You know, and that's unfortunate for poor Jimmy Page. Who's he gonna get, man? I just read this week that Coverdale is trying to get him to do some more stuff. Like they want to put out they want to do a box set of their one record and add some new things to it. I really hope that happens. Jimmy Page has been on the sidelines for way too long, man.
Right.
So
Yep.
creative and so, you know, just so interesting. He's just one of those fascinating players. And I know a lot of people write him off as being sloppy or whatever, but man, I'll take Jimmy Page over, you know, any of those really high-end shredders any day. It's just something so intriguing about his playing, and it's got roots. You go all the way back to the original rock and roll guitar players from the 50s, all the blues stuff, all the weird psychedelic stuff that was happening in the 60s. Jimmy Page has got all that. And, you know, it's a lot of guys that have really focused on metal, it's kind of one-dimensional. It's a great dimension, you know, but it's just that one thing.
Right.
I'm a huge fan of diversity. You know,
Yep.
I like acts that can do a lot of different kinds of things, and it's the through line that connects it all that fascinates me the most, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, like we were talking about Kansas, they got a big old range happening there, you know?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
While they were still doing things that were really diverse, where you had lots of different kinds of pieces, lots of different kinds of songs on each record, that was great. When they reformed, or even when they kind of stumbled into the 80s, you know, the records they've done like that have been a lot more narrow, you know? And it, you know, they're trying to chase hits, and that's never a good idea. But, you know, you get spoiled by your own success. You manage to hit on something that really connects with the world, and lots of bands fall into this, especially groups from the 70s. It takes them 4 or 5 records to really hit their stride, and they get a big, massive hit. Everything's platinum at that point, and then it's just like, oh, we've got to maintain this.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of the end, you know? Because you stop doing the music that you do, you stop doing what, you know, is sort of in your heart, what inspires you to do, and now you're like, I'm watching the charts and I see that.
Right. Exactly.
You know, what is that Tom Petty song, the A&R man says, I don't hear a single. You know, once that's in charge of your career, man, it's really, really hard to break out of that. And most bands don't.
Yeah. I just love, I mean, you're the same way, man. I just, like, my whole thing is just keep it real and do what you love. Don't be conforming to stuff, you know.
The folks who love it will find it. And maybe that won't mean platinum sales. Maybe that won't mean, you know, that you're playing to 20,000 people selling out every night.
Right.
Every kind of music has its season, you know. In the early to mid 70s, it was prog rock. You know, in the late 70s, punk had its moment, came and went, new wave. You know, we had a big resurgence of heavy metal in the mid 80s. Glam was glam rock, that kind of stuff, big. You know, and then grunge comes along, wipes out all the way. You know, and, you know, I have a lot of friends that are always, you know, lamenting the loss of their favorite music from being, you know, flavor of the month or whatever. But look, in any trend, they have their moment, and they go down. Maybe they don't go down as far as other people go, but nobody stays at the top forever. And you know, the smart people figure out where their audience is and they adjust. They figure out how to stay afloat and play with the people that like what they do. And who knows? You know, lightning struck twice for Journey. They were down and out before the Sopranos, and all of a sudden, boom! Now they're huge and everywhere again. And you know, that does happen. But I think those cases are kind of rare. Usually, have a certain arc, you hit that peak, and then you got to figure out how you're gonna go. If you're gonna keep going, you know, what can you do to downshift? And you know, some bands get very, very smart about it. I'm a huge fan of the Scorpions, believe it or not.
I love the Scorpions.
Everybody's
awesome.
surprised when I say that. But they're brilliant because they're smart. They are a smart band, and they read the landscape in the early 90s and figured out, okay, America's going in a different direction here. Let's go someplace else. And they took advantage of the opening up of Eastern Europe, and they just committed themselves to Eastern Europe, Asia. They ended up in South America. A lot of bands did that, and they became truly global artists. And when Scorpions were first coming up in the 70s, it was all about making it in America. Most British and European acts, that was all what it was about. From the Beatles on. If you can make it in America, you've made it. But America got really, really focused in the early 90s, and all of a sudden, it's a different thing. And, the American bands, I think, suffered the most. There's this whole, I can't remember exactly, but it's like, Janie Lane from Warrant was talking about, Cherry Pie was number one week, and they go in, everything's great. They walk in, and it's like, the poster is all of a sudden different. Cherry Pie's not on the wall anymore, and all of a sudden there's Ugly Kid Joe or somebody like that.
Yep.
It's like, we're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And so, the smart bands are the ones that figure out, how to ride the landscape. And the same kind of thing happened, 10 years later when the internet exploded. And all of a sudden nobody's buying records anymore because it's all online. And, a lot of bands stopped making albums and just focused on touring. And I think that makes economic sense, although, Blue Oyster Cult just did their first record in 20 years this year. And I think about the music we could have had in 10 decades. I miss that. A lot of my favorite bands did that. Kansas did that. Styx did that. They went all these years without putting anything else out. Now, I get it. A big league record is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and nobody wants to front that money themselves. So if you don't have a record company that's willing to lay that down.
Right.
But the creativity of those guys, I don't think has diminished at all. And, our Lost Boys records, all of them we did, and, I think they sound pretty good, but we spent $5,000 on them, roughly, each. And, so I'm sure a national global artist doesn't want to spend $5,000 making an album. Maybe $50,000, maybe that's a little bit more in terms of what the bottom end of what they're going to do. But
right.
I was always thinking that, well, just make it yourselves and sell it at your concerts, because the folks that are really interested in it are the ones that are coming to see you anyway. But, watching BOC work this year, they made a bunch of videos, and they were everywhere this summer, or this past fall. When that record came out in October, all of a sudden you couldn't turn around without some new article, some new bit, and that is ultimately what a record company can do for you. You can make the record. I don't think that's really the issue, but having somebody help get the word out,
right,
making it available all over the planet, that is what you need a record company for. That's something that you can't do on your own.
Yep.
And even with the younger musicians today that are making a big deal about the internet, yes, there are a lot of people that are making enormous strides with success that way. But you think about everybody that records a guitar video and throws it up there. For every one, person that makes it that way, there are millions that are trying to do it. And the internet is so wide open. The trying to make yourself heard above the noise, as they say, is a huge thing. And and if you're a heritage band, if you're in your 60s and your 70s or something like that, how are you going to appeal to the 15-year-old today?
Right.
The best thing to do is just to get out there and do your thing. BOC is still a steady live draw within a certain capacity. When they come to Atlanta, they play Variety Playhouse, and they pack it. Now, they should not be trying to play Phillips Arena. They should not be trying to do Verizon or some big place like that.
Exactly.
But Variety, they'll pack it out, and it'll be a full room of people that are just going ballistic because they're playing Godzilla or whatever.
Right, exactly.
That is smart. The bands that survive figure out how they can get their show into a venue that they will fill and they get the costs down in terms of production and travel and all that kind of stuff. And that's what you got to do.
Right.
And so figuring out that formula, I'm sure, is no easy task. But the smart ones figure it out, and they don't whine about it, you know? Tons of interviews with the main guys in BOC this year. They're happy, man. They are overjoyed that they even were able to make a new record and that they've gotten such great feedback from it. So, you know, I don't complain. The world is way different than it was when I was coming up, and all my dreams about, you know, getting a big record contract and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I still have them. But the main thing, I still write songs, I still record, and, you know, all the pandemic aside, I play shows and I play that music all the time. I'm always working. And, you know, I've had a great run with the Lost Boys. You know, we've made a ton of money. We've spent a ton of money, too.
I hear you.
But, you know, at our peak, when we were traveling so much, man, you know, we were playing, when we were at King Richard's Fair, just as an example, up in Boston, we had 4 or 5 sets a day, and it was always 200 people. Packed. The amount of tip money that we were getting at the end of the day was ridiculous. It was more than our check. You know, and if you ever seen like an act like the Tortuga Twins from a comedy act, you know, they were our mentors in a lot of ways in terms of figuring out how to do it on the road. And you know, you ever see those guys and the kind of money that they rake in, it was getting like that. And so to know the success that is possible, and, you know, I'll always remember Charlotte and DragonCon during that first explosion. Dude, you know, it's great. And there have been other experiences too, man. I don't have any regrets. I mean, I've played in front of 80,000 people a couple of times. I played with a country singer named Bill Gentry, and my third gig with him was Gwinnett Arena in front of 10,000 people. Wow. So I've had some real big time experiences there, you know, and I'd love to get there again, you know, and who knows?
Yeah.
It's, you know, whether Lost Boys will have another cool run some point, it could happen. We're ready. Or whether it'll be another project, which in a way I kind of hope it will be. You know, Lost Boys is a very defined thing, and in a lot of ways it's been sort of a detour from, you know, from what I consider to be my real music. You know, the old Carmelingo band, we did 2 records that are a lot more representative of what I think I really do. You know? So I've got a new thing that I've been working on for several years that will probably not roll out until the pandemic is really done. Once everybody's got their shots and everything's more or less back to normal, you know, I don't really want to pull the trigger on it too soon, but I've got a new project that it's all about me. I get to sing everything, I get to write everything, and I'm pretty much, you know, defining what it is. And it's very much an extension of the kind of music that we were doing back in the Carmelingo days. And I'm very excited about that. Interesting to see, you know, what's possible in today's era. But one thing I can assure everybody of, that's going to be a lot of new music, you know. I write and record every day. I got 30 years worth of stuff that nobody's ever heard. And till my dying day, I'll be trying to get it out there. So
Sweet. Yeah. Awesome, brother. Awesome.
All right, so you was kind of getting into it a little bit, but what's the future of the Lost Boys? I mean, are you guys planning on touring again or playing places and in the future here when the pandemic's over, or getting a record?
Yeah, I mean, everything's kind of been on hold, like for most people, you know. We're you know, just as a little side note, we're very, very conscientious about this whole pandemic thing. I know a lot of my friends that are out playing, and a lot of them have to do it because of economic reasons, you know. We're fortunate enough that we don't have to. And so we're trying to stay out of it so as not to contribute to it, if that makes any sense, you know.
Oh yeah, well that's
people
true.
that have to be out and about, the longer the pandemic's going to last. And so we're just trying to stay home, stay healthy, not worry about it. I mean, we're spending our time writing a lot of songs. I mean, I'm sure David told you he's come up with like several winners over this past year, and we look forward to getting in to record those. I've got a bunch of new songs. Everybody's working on stuff. So,
excellent.
You know,
Yeah.
imagine that we'll probably be out playing again before we see a new album, just because we don't really want to start recording until we have a chance to actually rehearse together again. And we haven't really hit that stage yet. Everybody's still kind of playing it very safe. So it's all right. We're writing, we're talking to each other all the time. You know, we're in touch pretty much every week, you know, what's going on, like that. So we're still good.
Yeah.
You know, as far as what happens in the future with Lost Boys, I mean, a lot of other things in life are becoming very prominent. You know, Will's raising a family right now. Everybody's got, you know, professional, real job concerns. You know, I got married a few years ago, and, you know, these are things that ultimately are way important than any one band. They just are. And,
Right.
you know, if you've got a couple of babes in arms, not exactly the time you want to go, here, honey, I'll see you in a week. It's not going to happen. You need to be home, and you need to raise your kids. You need to, you know,
Right.
into real life situations. And, you know, we never got to the point where anybody's making a living off the Lost Boys. If we ever had, then it would be a different proposition. But everybody's got to do what they need to do to keep the rent paid and keep food on the table and all that stuff. And
Right.
you have a relationship that you care about, you got to tend to it, you know, and
Yep.
that's way more important than any band. But
Absolutely.
we're committed to each other as friends. You know, this is probably going to be the last Lost Boys lineup, just because we're all in it. Nobody wants to go anywhere. Nobody wants to quit. Nobody
great
wants
to
to
hear.
stop
Yeah.
doing it. But whether we're really going to be busting our butts to get out across the country and tour and do all that kind of stuff,
Right.
hard to say.
Right.
I mean, it's a blast. It's really fun and inspiring to feel like you're, you know, leading the charge and planting the flag and conquering new territory and all that. But you have to have a life that can accommodate that. And the only reason why I've been the one constant Lost Boy for 20 years is because I was the only guy who had a life that could do that. And that's still true today. Of all five of us, I'm probably the one guy that could just pick up and go. And even then, you know, I have a wife now that it means more to me than any note of music I'll ever play. And, you know, she and I talk about it from time to time. If I ever got a really great opportunity, of course I'm going to do it. But she's part of my world now. I got to factor that in. I can't just leave that behind and see you, honey. Nope. That's something, you know, we'll work out if that opportunity ever comes. But take that relationship and times it times 5, and you see the complications that are involved there. You know, the other thing is the cost. I mean, I personally went massively into debt because of the Lost Boys, you know, to the tune of bankruptcy, you know. And part of the reason why we just had to slow down is that it costs a lot of money to travel. That's another thing that the record company does for you. You know, they give you tour support, or you get sponsors, or you get whatever. You know, don't kid yourself, man. Anybody who's out there touring, that money's coming from somewhere.
Right.
And it probably is not coming from ticket sales.
Right.
You know, that is coming from an exterior source that may not be very evident to the public. And without that, any band that's going to want to hit the road, you know, you got to factor that in. And yeah, when you're 22, maybe it's not such a big deal. But when you're 30, when you're 40, whatever, you know, you've got a lot of other real life considerations, and you can't just pretend like they don't exist, because that's going to bite you in the ass later on.
Right.
So, you know, Lost Boys, we're not going anywhere. And
Cool.
Awesome.
the pandemic is relaxed enough for us to be playing out. We'll be back out, you know.
Awesome.
Maybe we can get a new record in by end of next year. Maybe that would be cool. Certainly, there's enough material lying around and enough ideas around. We could do 5 more records, easy. There's enough stuff there that all we just need to do is just put the time in, you know. So, yeah, Lost Boys ain't done by any stretch, not at all.
Awesome, brother.
Well, dude, we've had such a good time talking with you today. We could probably
Absolutely.
talk for 6 more hours, you know, but
Bring it on.
we're kind of hitting the end of the you know, hitting that hour mark here. So
Okay.
how about if you will, you want to just shred on your violin, show people what you
Yeah,
can
brother.
do?
Yeah, let's see it, brother.
I have a violin right here.
Oh, heck yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Oh, heck yeah.
So, I'm just gonna make something up. How about
All
that?
right, cool. I like it. Awesome.
Bravo.
Dude, you are the man, brother. You are an amazing player, man.
Well, thank you very much.
You are very
Thanks so much for coming on to the show with us
Yes.
today.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much.
Well, y'all take care now. We'll see you next time, okay?
All right, brother. Have a good one, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Bye.
The Henry-Kern Show would like to thank our friends. Kruse Effects. Slip Check Records. Pick World Guitar Picks.
And of course, Nebulous Music Studios in Royston, Georgia.